And we are live. Welcome everyone to the Power Man podcast. My name is Rory Paquette. I am, as always, your very humble host. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have an incredibly special guest here today. Before I introduce him, need to do a little housekeeping. I want to thank everybody for all of your well wishes. Apparently, I sounded horrible in one of my last podcasts because I had like 9 people say, "Hey, man, you sound rough. Are you okay?" It's just these allergies. We're pushing through, and here on the Power Man, that's how we do things. We power up, we power through, we power on. That's just how it goes. So thank you for all that, and thank you for the feedback on the last few episodes. Also, we had some very good discussions going on about the 3 reasons to, not discuss politics, which was one of our last topics. We had a whole bunch of folks who commented on the story that I told of the young man who went through that real crucible and managed to find God along the way. And by the time this podcast comes out, we will have aired episode 150 with Justin Wegner from Day 41 Apparel and his story, also about how God influenced his life and changed his brand and everything else. So I hope that you folks have heard those. If you haven't, go back and listen to them. I also want to say that if you're a fan of Justin's, like I am, a fan of Justin Wegner from Backbone Swag days, go back to his first episode. It's in the 30s. I want to say it's episode 32, might be 36, but it's one of those. Go look, you'll see it. It's Justin Wegner. Um, and listen to that first podcast we ever did with him. Then go to episode 100 and listen to what he had to say about some changeovers he was doing with his business and how Backbone Swag was getting huge. And then, you listen to the current podcast. He's a different man. He is a completely different man to the public. Now, I've always known him as this incredibly kind, spiritual guy who, really, really is about family and God and honor and loyalty and his business, and even more so now. So I think that to me, the biggest thing that's changed is he's just talking more about his faith and his beliefs and things like that. So it's pretty cool. Hope you guys will check it out. Now, this young man has been sitting here waiting patiently for me to finish just yapping about all this other housekeeping stuff. I want to introduce you to this guy. Let me tell you a little bit about him real quick, just from my standpoint. I've known this young man since I think he was 9. He's nodding his
Yep.
head. I think it was 9. First year of Pee Wee, I think is what it was in
Yep.
Little League. Yeah, and I coached for a long time, like you guys all know. He was on several of my teams. This young man is one of those guys. No matter what you asked him to do, no matter what you threw at him, no matter what position you asked him to play, he went out. He was the hardest running guy out onto the field. He gave everything he had. If he had to come back with blood on his face and dirt all over his legs, he didn't care. This guy even later on, when he was playing first base for us, did full splits at first base just to gain a few inches on the runner. I mean, this kid has always given his all. Now, after baseball's over and high school's over and everything else, he has become a very honorable young man who has served his country with a great deal of honor. I'm incredibly proud of him. Um, please welcome to our show um, a very close personal friend of mine now, and always one of my players. Petty Officer Third Class Kyler Dietrich. How are you doing, Kyler?
Doing all right. How about yourself?
Hanging in there, man. Was that introduction okay? That
Oh yeah,
cover
that was
everything?
phenomenal. Phenomenal.
He's also one of the most humble guys you're ever going to meet in your entire life. So,
I try to
um,
be.
now, Kyler, tell everybody a little bit about you. Now, a lot of our listeners are local. A lot of them know you,
Mhm.
but a lot of folks don't. So, just tell them a little bit about you, who you are, where you came from, how we know each other. Anything you
Mhm.
want to say, and anything you say that's good about me is always good. It's good for publicity.
Oh, don't worry, you'll get a lot of praise in this.
All right, man,
But
go
yeah,
for it.
so grew up in Mishawaka and took on to baseball pretty early. I mean, we were always watching the Cubs, everything like that. So baseball was definitely a big part of my life. And then I finally went to Southeast and, went through the whole program there, and then finally got up to Pee Wee. And then I met Caden.
my
AKA
my
what we
my
called
son Caden, right?
And, finally got to, I would say, play on a good team. I was never on all like the, best of the best teams. But, growing up, me personally, I hate to lose, which obviously, as you said earlier, I would do anything just to gain a couple inches.
Yep.
And, I would hate to lose. So, finally getting, Caden on my team, having you as a coach, I knew that losing was going to be very difficult for that team. And then, we go through the year, we have a phenomenal year. And then I kept moving up. And I think the next time I played with you was Majors.
Majors, yeah.
Majors, and we were on it was the Gray Kroger team, I think.
It was the KSS Wolfpack team.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we played there, had great coaching staff. We had you, Chris Lyle, which I still have nightmares of him screaming at us to get to third.
Get here, get here, get here. Right.
As soon as you hear that, as soon as you hit a ball in the gap, you're hearing Chris screaming at you.
Right. Get to third.
And if you didn't, you were running laps after.
That's
just
true.
to gain that. But yeah, that's when I kind of figured out that I was, pretty good at baseball. Being able to play first base like that. Obviously, I had great coaches, and my nickname started to come into play there of Hollywood, because, as you would say, I did a 3 to 4 second pause every time I caught the ball, which I never knew.
It's true.
So then you guys, trained me on how to, get away from that. And then, yeah, we had a great year. I think it was right before playoffs started is when my injury game happened, of when I was up to bat against Connor, which was on another South Bend or Southeast team. And so I'm a lefty, all lefties are ball magnets. And I get hit right above the right elbow. And I go, I'm thinking I'm fine. Throw the bat to the dugout, and then I go to take a step, and my legs just gave out on me. And I, instantly curl up in the fetal position, and I start crying because I'm like, I know I can contribute a lot to this team, and without me being on there, I felt like it kind of hurt our chances a little bit, just because I always try to find a way to contribute. And I finally mustered up the strength to, stand up and walk it off. And I don't remember if it was you on third or not, but I remember someone giving me the steal sign. And I'm like, Coach, I can't move my arm from a 90-degree angle, and you want me to run? Well, that's the whole second. I was out by a mile, but for some reason the umpire said I was safe. And going back to saying I like to contribute to the team. After I mustered up the strength to, finally get back out there, playing first base, it sucked. Couldn't move my arm, so I'm trying everything in my power to get my arm up a little bit. And then we needed to make a pitching change. I remember you looking at me, you go, can you throw? If you need me to throw, I'll throw. And that's just that's just how much trust I had in you. With like at that point, like you look down on me to uh, get the job done for us. And then, especially since we were called the Wolf Pack, I always remember your famous quote of, if you're trying to kill someone, don't take your foot off the neck. So I'm like, oh well, he needs, and we can't let our foot off the neck. So I'm gonna go strike out these guys so we can win this game. That was a little rough because his arm didn't want to move, but we still finished the game. And then after the game, I go to the ER to see what happened. And we just get done with X-rays and everything like that. And then you would always do, email recaps of the game. Giving your praise out to everyone. And I was already a little emotional at that time, just because I knew I was going to be out for at least a couple games. And then I see, well, my mom's like, hey, like, the email came out. And it's a picture of me in the hospital bed. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I start reading it. And as soon as I get to the end of it, I'm bawling my eyes out. Not from pain or not from anything like that. It was just everything that you said in that was like very genuine, like very like to heart. Like I know it was meant for the whole team, but it was, you can tell that it was like driven towards me. And I think back around those times, I wasn't like, my dad wasn't in my life. And I always looked to coaches as father figures. So with, you, Chris Lyle, Andy Krisman, Alan Faust, everyone that I've had a coach for, or that coached me, I always looked up to them as a father figure because they always taught me everything you guys taught me everything I knew. And I would like to say I get my humbleness and everything from you. Because I would say you have a big part in turning me into the man I am today. Just with all your wise words and sometimes, scolding talks, but those always happen. And then, I finally am out of the ER. And I think we have a game next week or something like that. And it's at Warren. And Warren was known for the short fences.
Yep.
And, me being like my last year in majors, I'm like, oh, I want to play at Warren so I can finally hit a home run over that fence. But I wasn't clear for the game. And I'm sitting there. I'm still like warming up. I have like my sling on. I have ibuprofen and snacks in the sling. And I'm coming up to you. I'm like, Coach, please let me play. Just let me play. He's like, nope. I'm like, all right, fine. I'll sit on the bench. But yeah, that was a great year for me because I finally realized my potential in baseball. And that's what wanted me to keep going.
That's huge right there. Let me just stop you for half a second because I'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you for all the kind words. I'm beyond touched that you remember that email. I really am.
It's still on my Facebook today.
Are you serious?
Yep.
Wow. That was we relied on you as a leader in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of people are hearing this and they're like, man, you made this poor kid, play and steal. And I mean, in my defense, you're a lot like me and Caden and Mike, in a lot of ways. I mean, you're not letting anybody know how bad you're hurt either.
Like even though it was no tears are coming down or anything like that, I still had my stone cold killer face on.
Right. And I mean, if you did go down, even for a minute, I mean, you were like scrambling to get back up, like, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. Nope, I'm good. Don't have to come out. Don't put anybody in for me. You've always wanted to be part of the team. You've always wanted to be a major contributor.
Hmm.
I think that those things really explain a lot about where you ended up a little bit later in your life, to be honest.
Yep.
Um, I really am touched that you remember the email. But when I found out, how bad it was, um, number one, I thought your mom was going to kill me. And then when my wife found out how bad it was, I thought she was going to kill me. So,
I would
the
more worried about your wife.
what's that?
I would have been more worried about your wife.
What? Yeah, it was, you were tough, man. I mean, you still are. You're a tough young man, but I knew how much you loved baseball. And,
Hmm.
just to hear that, it means a lot. I know the other gentleman, one of those coaches that you named is not here with us anymore. May he rest in peace.
Hmm.
But all of the other guys that you've mentioned, they're here. And from what I understand, they're listeners.
Hmm.
And I know they're going to hear that, and they're going to be honored that you're still thinking about them like that.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, I talk to Jake all the time. Uh, the other time, or one of the other times I was back home, uh, my mom was talking to me because I was trying to go hit because I'm still trying to, get back into baseball and everything like that as soon as I get out of here. And my mom's like, "Hey, Patrick Faust still works at the South Bend Performance Center." I'm like, "No, I didn't." So, I texted my buddy instantly. I'm like, "Hey, we're going to the Performance Center." He's like, "All right." Walk in, the first person I see is Patrick. And I'm like, "Oh, well, you haven't changed a bit.
right.
He's still a skinny guy with a very lovable face."
Baseball friends are forever, man.
Oh yeah, they are.
They
Most
really are.
like
The
I
you
don't know if you
mentioned
remember. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, go
Sorry.
ahead. After you.
So I don't know if you remember Cooper Jean or not.
Mhm.
I
Of
still talk
course.
to him every day. He actually hung out with me uh, on my last birthday.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he saw a very very bad side of me that day.
Cooper's another great young man, though. We
Oh yeah,
had one thing about all those teams, and I'm blessed that my sons got to play with all of these really good young men.
mhm.
Like you, like Cooper. Like Joey. Guys like that. Really good quality young men, and I mean, honestly, there's too many to name. you know,
Oh yeah.
you've named a bunch, and I know when they listen to this, they're gonna be glad they got named. On the podcast, but um, the lessons that you got, from baseball, and the things that um, the way it kind of helped you come into your own.
Mhm.
You know, I know that you've always loved baseball with all of your heart, and
I still
for you to what's that?
I still do to this day.
I was going to say for you to come out and do what you're thinking about doing and possibly getting back into it, you'll do it. I know you will because you have that heart just set on it, man. Um, in the interest of time, let's because you and I can sit here and talk Little League all day.
Yeah, we
We
could.
talk baseball forever. But we had some really really good times, and had some really good teams in there
Oh
too.
yeah, we did.
Um, but you've always been a leader. You've always been a guy who all of his teammates could count on.
Mhm.
And when you get out of school, you made a very big decision to do something with your life. Why don't you tell everybody about the decision you made, what went into that decision, and how growing up and the things you learned kind of played into that.
So go like in high school, I was obviously still playing baseball, and I remember one time I think I was in one of my elective classes. I don't remember which one, but uh, we had a like break day of where like the Navy or the Army or Air Force comes in and does like a presentation.
Right.
So I'm sitting there. I'm actually kind of paying attention a little bit because I think it was my great great grandfather was in the Navy as well. And, my grandpa always talks about him all the time. He still has his medals posted up and everything like that. So, I'm actually kind of listening just to, get a little bit more backstory of like what Navy has done in the past years and everything like that. And then, some time goes by and, I'm kind of looking at it like I don't have that much time to, make a decision to go to either college or do whatever in my life. So I kind of saw that, baseball wasn't going to be an option anymore, which definitely sucked. So I was like,
Right.
what's the next best thing? And I'm like, oh, I remember the Navy came in, I kind of actually enjoyed it. So I kind of got in contact with the recruiters and everything like that. And we started, actually getting pretty serious about it, like actually joining the Navy and everything like that. And I'm like, okay, this actually doesn't sound too bad. This is something that I would like to do. So I finally joined into the Navy. Uh, it is now past my it has passed my 5-year mark, which
Congratulations.
I feel old because of that. Just because of when you're in the military, you see a lot of generations come through, and you meet a lot of other generations.
Mhm.
So like so get through boot camp, A school, everything like that, and I finally get to my first ship. Well, first annual ship, I shall say, and I'm on a carrier. You know, they call carriers floating cities because it is 5,000 people on that thing,
Wow.
and I finally get to like where I work at, and there's a lot of things that like they don't tell you about as soon as you get like to the ship. Like I remember my first week there was a trip. We were still in port in San Diego, and no one's really trying to work. I think we were like 2 or 3 weeks away from deployment, so work's already done. They don't care about these 4 new check-ins that they just got. They kind of just want them to get their stuff done, and then as soon as they're done, and the higher the higher people don't want to work with us anymore, they kind of just you kick us to the side, be like, all right, cool, go enjoy San Diego. So I remember, I think it was my third or fourth day there. We so in our berthing we had a lounge, bunch of couches, a couple chairs, and I remember sitting there with all my buddies, and then like I see someone come around the corner, and I forgot what he said exactly, but then I just remember him jumping on one of our guys and like start beating him. And I'm like, oh, that we do this now?
Was it like
And
hazing or something? Or
it's not really hazing. Like that was like our tradition.
I was gonna say, I don't mean to, because I know there's a bad connotation with hazing. I mean, is it like initiation type deal or something?
I mean, not really, because they were both like senior guys. It was just kind of tradition, fun kind of thing that we did. It was so pretty much when we beat someone, it was for pretty much anything good that happened to them. Birthday, rank up, makes senior rate, or gets married or has a kid. And definitely from when I first showed up to the ship to once I left the ship, those beatings definitely got changed a lot just because of the hazing part. Because we got in trouble with that before. Uh, Someone's birthday, we're beating him, and one of our chiefs walks in, and he's laughing about it and everything, but he goes tells the higher ups about it, and then yeah, we kind of took a hit from that, and we kind of made it more discreet ish. But yeah, we love to do all the, classic traditions that I'm assuming most people know, like a shellback ceremony where you cross the equator.
Okay.
Uh, I've done that twice. Uh, got to experience both sides of it because you have so people who haven't crossed the equator is polywogs, and they're the ones that are getting hazed, air quotes. And uh, then there's the shellbacks, and the shellbacks kind of just run the ceremony, make sure it's fun for the people that are like fun for the wogs, as we say. And then yeah, so I like the first time I went through it, obviously, yeah, it was fun, and then you got very very wet, and going through it second.
All right, let me. I'm gonna get a letter from like the Department of Defense or
No, no, no.
something.
I'm keeping
Uh,
it very broad here.
right. Um. All right. So aside from the beatings and the hazings, okay, just leave it to you to come on and talk about that. What I mean, you're talking about traveling the globe. You're talking about crossing the equator. I mean,
Mhm.
guys you went to school with can't even fathom that. I mean, some of them haven't even been
Yep.
out of Indiana. You know
Yep.
what I mean? So, what was it like for you? You know what I mean? Small town kid, middle of the Midwest, Indiana boy, right? To just be like
Mhm.
all of a sudden Mr. World Traveler. I mean, what was that like?
It first hit me as soon as I stepped out of the airport in San Diego.
And why is that?
Well, because so I've traveled around the country. I think I've hit about 20 of the 50 states. So I've never been West Coast. I've only pretty much been like East Coast to maybe down south a little bit,
Okay.
but I've never been West Coast. And I've always heard stories of sunny California, and then you finally go there, and as soon as you walk out of the airport, it's just palm trees, you know, sun shining, and it's like, oh, this is everything that they talk about. Traffic all over the place, nice cars here and there, palm trees, sunny, and 75. So that's when it kind of hit me first. And then I finally hit my first port, which was Guam. And it opens up your eyes because most people don't like think of Guam as like a place to travel to. It's what we call it the poor person Hawaii, just because obviously it's farther from Hawaii, but still same sites and everything. And it's a very tropical kind of island. So you there's nothing that really prepares that unless someone's actually been there. So I kind of once I saw that, I kind of took a step back. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. I want to explore here now. But then I also had to keep, the military, oh, we have to be respectful and, you
Mhm.
know,
Right.
hold ourselves to a higher standard, which I'm used to. It's obviously it's kind of my thing, but it was
That's,
just,
that's how you were raised, man.
yeah. But yeah, it was definitely a different vibe to it. And then, uh, and then COVID hit us. I think we
Now,
were the first carrier to get COVID.
I was going to say, what was that like? Having it because we all have our own COVID stories, right? I mean,
Yeah.
every time you talk to anybody, they have a COVID story. You were on a ship.
Yep.
I mean,
We,
and you couldn't leave the ship or something. I remember hearing some stuff about this from you and your mom back in the day when that was happening. But
so we were in Vietnam when that happened. This was also the only day that I was able to get off the ship. And Vietnam, we didn't have like an actual port, so we were just anchored on the out, like out in the ocean.
yeah.
So we had to have Liberty boats come back and forth from the like dock. And I was on the last one out. And then they finally recalled all of us because we started to get COVID. So we go back to the ship, and like from then on, it was kind of just hectic. Like we obviously got out of the area, and then we kind of just were playing like guessing game on how many people have it, how many people don't. Quarantining the ones that we could.
Mm-hmm.
And then it got to the point where it was so bad that we like our berthing was like, I wouldn't say like quarantine, but we couldn't leave unless we had like watch to go eat or anything like that. So like important stuff to do. And I mean, most of the guys were like, all right, cool, that's fine. We can just, sit here, play our video games all we want. Which is what I did most of the time. I was playing Modern Warfare 2019 most of the time.
You're in the Navy, you're on an aircraft carrier, and you're playing a war game.
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure I had that right. Okay. All right. Wow. I mean, I can't even imagine that sort of quarantine, on a ship, that's enclosed like that. But
Yeah.
what other ports did you get to see besides
Uh,
Guam
so
and Vietnam?
so it was Guam and Vietnam, my first one. My second deployment, I just had Guam because that was also another COVID deployment. And this last deployment was where I actually got to see a lot more ports. So obviously we hit Guam first. That's pretty much like a staple for us. We will always hit Guam. Uh, and then we went to Singapore. Singapore is very nice. I figured this out the first time I went. It's like Las Vegas of here,
Hmm.
but over in like Malaysia and everything like that.
Wow.
So it's very beautiful. Everything there is nice, modern. Their mall is in their hotel, or there's a mall in their airport.
Hmm.
So
All about the
Singapore,
tourists.
actually not that bad. There was a lot of things you can do there. Obviously we like the Navy had their own stuff that you can pay to go do tours and everything like that.
Sure.
But I mean, yeah, that would have been cool and everything. But I kind of like just to branch off, do my own thing. And I think the first time I went to Singapore, me and my buddies went to one of the water parks there. It was an okay water park. Not gonna say it's the greatest, but for over there, it was one of the better ones. And then after Singapore, we went to Thailand. Thailand was very fun just because of all the stories that people have told. And there was you can definitely see the side of the story, like side of those stories that everyone talks about.
Sure. I think everybody understands what you're saying right now. So
I'm pretty sure.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there you can definitely see that there. And I think the first day we were out, me and my buddies were just doing like drinking, bar hopping, everything like that. Uh, and then after that, we went to well, not after that, the next day. It was just me and one other buddy with me, and me and this buddy have been like real close since he's like shown up to the ship because he showed up way after I did, and he like me and him were like, oh, let's go like go-karting and everything like that. I'm like, oh, okay, cool, I'm down for that. Go-karting. uh those go-karts are way faster than they are here. They have like no regulations over there. So we go-karting, and then we finally leave, and we go back to like where our drop off point was for the ship, which was the Hard Rock Cafe. And we go to the Hard Rock, obviously get a couple more drinks in us, and then we finally leave, go back to the ship. And then after that, we went to Singapore again, and I pretty much did the same thing. First night go out drinking, second night uh, went go karting.
So I have such a hard time, picturing you out drinking. You know what I mean? Because you've always been such like this straight-laced, hardcore, disciplined young man, you know what I mean? With like, the button up and the perfectly pressed, uniform and you know what I mean? I mean, your hat wasn't even on crooked. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It still isn't actually as I'm looking at you right now. So it's amazing to see that change. Besides I don't want to get too much into the Singapore story, so let's change a little bit. Just quickly, so we can kind of move on to some other things. But what are
No,
some of
no.
the other cities and ports that you hit?
So there was South Korea that we hit. I unfortunately could not get to experience that because I was restricted at the time. Uh,
Okay.
Obviously, your military members will understand that, but I'll go into very broad explanation of it. Basically, I did something I wasn't supposed to do on watch, and went up to the captain's mast for it. Uh, they gave me 45 days restriction, uh, extra duty, and then they gave me reduction in rank and uh, half month's pay times two. But
Oh,
uh, those are both suspended.
you broke a rule. You, of all people, broke a rule.
Yeah,
I don't even know how to handle this right now.
yeah,
All right, don't tell me any more about that. All right, because
yeah.
all right.
But yeah,
Let
so we
me
went to
go ahead.
South
You went to
Korea,
Singapore. Got it.
Singapore, Thailand, Singapore again, and then South Korea. And then after South Korea, we kind of figured out that we were going over to a place that isn't very good right now, which is over in the Middle East.
Okay.
So we figured out we were going over there to relieve another ship because they were already out there for, I think, almost a year ish, which deployments are usually about 6 to 8 months. So being underway for a year, I couldn't imagine it.
So there is U.S. military out there in that area.
Oh, yeah, there is.
I mean, that's actually going to come as a shock to a lot of people who watch the news, when they hear that.
We've been there for a while. I think ever since it started.
I believe you. That's just, I don't think that's the story being told. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um, and to not get you in trouble, we'll get off of that too. So I feel like I'm dancing through a classified briefing right now. Um, let me ask you this: the you spent 5 years in the
Mhm.
military, and obviously that shapes you. And there's a lot that happens. What was Can you narrow it down? What was the best part? Like, you're getting out now. You're done. You're heading out. You're heading into the rest of your life right now. You're literally sitting here awaiting your release, right? With bated
I am.
breath. As soon as the government says, yes, you can leave, you're going to leave.
Yep.
Um, and power to you, job well done. But what are you going to miss the most?
Honestly, it's the people. I'd miss the people more than anything. Just because you're in such like tight knit quarters that it's like everyone there has became your brother, or if anything, some form of your family.
Yeah.
So you kind of just get that click with everybody. And I know the day that I left the ship, I I almost cried because I'm leaving my family. Like those are my guys.
Right.
I still, plan on making a trip out to San Diego once they, pull back in, just to see them, one more time. But yeah, it's definitely the people that I miss the most.
That's good to hear, and it's not uncommon. I mean, just about every military guy that I work with and talk to says the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So I'm not at all surprised to hear that, especially from somebody like you, who really makes sure that he's a part of the team. He's carrying his own weight, and he's out there doing his best, and
Mhm.
so that it makes me happy to hear that. Now, and we don't have to talk about it long or at all if you don't want to, but I've made some mention in our Power of Man Within private group about
Yep.
some of the stuff that you had to go through, and I've spent time praying for you because I knew you had to deal with some very adult situations when I didn't really know. I was hoping that you were adult enough at the time,
Yeah.
because to me you're still the 15-year-old kid playing first base, you know.
Hmm.
Um,
Definitely still feel that way as well.
But you've had a couple of rough times in
I
the
have.
military. Do you want to share anything about that? Tell anybody about that?
So yeah, obviously I had to deal with, an unfortunate suicide. Uh, Definitely took a toll on me. Uh, the surprising thing that I didn't know that I actually needed was, I don't know if you've watched the show All American.
Yeah, I have.
So they have a thing called the Vortex. Uh, Basically, just their whole friend group and everything like that. And if one comes down, they all call in the village. So I remember that day. I finally got space away from everything, and that's when I sent out like the mass text to everyone that I knew, and it was the rapid response of everyone else,
Yeah.
because I was still over in Washington when I happened. Washington State for everyone listening. But yeah, I remember that's a 3 hour time difference. So I think when I finally got to text someone about it, it was around 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and obviously that's not 9 or midnight over there. So even though it was midnight, everyone texted me as soon as they saw that message.
Right.
So it was a good feeling knowing that I had everyone there to support me no matter like what happened and everything like that.
Right.
And then I don't know if I've told you about this one most recently, but I think the week before I was about to leave the ship, there was another person that attempted to.
Hmm.
Uh, they were not successful because I was there, because they tried to do it in one of our spaces that I was already going down to. Down to
Lucky.
it was. So I stopped that whole thing, got them to medical, and got them the help that they needed.
Wow. No, so for
So
the first one, you were the one who found him,
I was, yeah,
and for this one, you just got there a little earlier and were able to stop it.
yeah, because our spaces, they're very bottom of the ship, and you have to go down a like five-story ladder, basically, just straight down. So obviously you can't see if anyone's down there, if they're
Right.
actually like tucked away into the space. So I hear a little bit of commotion coming from the space, or like from up top. So I look over the ladder, and then next thing you know, I see someone fall. I'm like, oh, that's not supposed to happen. And
Right.
then I realized actually what's going on. So then I kind of just sprung it into action. And yeah, so got them the medical. Uh, our chain of command talked about it like 2 days after that, she was like they were fine and everything like that. So that definitely gave me a huge sigh of relief that I was able to, stop it before it even happened.
So you spend 5 years defending our freedom and our country and everything else, and then you actually save somebody's life.
Yep.
You're a hero, brother.
I try to be.
Well, you are. I mean, like officially, by definition now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You've always been by intent and heart and action, and
Mhm.
now by definition, you actually are. So, I mean, I'm beyond proud of you and what you've accomplished and what you've been able to do.
Thank you.
I think you know that. But how does uh, how does that impact you?
Uh, so my dad he's a cop down in Indy. That was the one that, after the first person, he would kind of, gave me the heart to heart saying like, oh, since I'm a cop, I've been through this, I can help in any way, shape or form.
Yeah,
And like my dad's side of the family, very, very Christian. So obviously I knew I had, you know, them on my side praying for me. I obviously had you. Now you're praying for me.
100%.
And,
Yeah,
my mom went to church a couple of times when I was growing up and everything like that. Kind of asked if I wanted to go. I'm like, if you're going, I'll go. So, I mean, I really wasn't, I want to say I'm very, like, I wouldn't say I'm Christian, but like, I believe it. Like, I support my family and everything like that.
hmm
So, you know, at that moment, I kind of was like, all right, I need something else. And then that's when I kind of started talking to God and everything. Started praying. And I feel like that's what got me through it is obviously you guys, supporting me up, stop me from falling.
sure.
But I definitely feel like, God helped me actually like rise up, you know, be the stronger man in the situation.
Wow. I
But
mean,
yeah, that's
I just asked you that question. I didn't even realize that.
yeah.
You know that because your mom reached out to me when that happened the first time, and I remember reaching out to you just to make sure you're okay because I was so
Mhm.
worried about you being out there having to deal with that all by yourself.
Yeah.
And I knew that you were okay, but I didn't know until right now that you turned to God about it all.
Yeah. So I uh so the one like main thing that was kind of running through my mind is so I read David Goggins' book of Can't Hurt Me.
Oh yeah, great book.
It is. Actually I just gave away my copy to one of my buddies on the ship. But yeah, so uh I remember reading that and just seeing the struggle that he went through. And, I was like, I don't want to, go through a struggle like that, you know, doing everything that he did. So I kind of was like, all right, I need something to bring me back up to that. And I'm like, God actually sounds pretty nice right now. Because obviously, first couple days after, finding that person, it was kind of the point where I'm like, oh, like this is pretty rough on me. This could actually happen to me as well. And there was times where I debated it. And luckily I didn't actually follow through. And I think after the first time I debated it, that's when I kind of turned to God. I'm like, I can't do this. I have a family to support. I have people that love me. I can't I can't do that to myself.
I'm glad
So
that's
yeah,
a decision that you made. I didn't realize that was going on either.
I mean, yeah, I try to keep it under wraps as much as I could. I didn't want to, worry you guys about it.
Well, you are the epitome of never let them see you weak. You know what I mean? I totally understand. That you keep things under the vest, but I never realized that. I really
Hmm.
didn't. I'm really glad that you made the decisions you made, obviously,
Hmm.
but I'm glad you had God to turn to.
Yeah, I mean, I've always had them, there to turn to, just with, dad's side of the family. Obviously, with you as my coach. But yeah, he's always been there, and I was happy he was looking over for me at that point.
Me too. Did you let your mom know that you would consider that kind of thing before?
Actually, no, this is the first time anyone has heard about it.
So your mother is going to hear about that on this
Eh,
podcast for the first time.
Well,
You set me up, man.
it's okay. I'll keep her away.
Let's say, oh no, she'll listen to it. I'm sure she'll.
I
I'm
mean, yeah,
interviewing her baby boy.
but I'll keep her away from you. Don't worry.
I want you to promise me something right now in front of all of our thousands of listeners. Okay. And I mean, we have thousands and thousands of listeners.
Mhm.
I want you to promise me that if you ever even have half of a thought of that ever again, that you pick up the phone, you call me immediately.
I promise you.
And I promise you that no matter what I'm doing, I'll stop doing it and I'll talk to you because there's no reason in the world for somebody like you to be feeling that way.
Yeah. I mean, seeing your video this morning, you're up at 2 a.m. anyway, so.
I am. All right. And if I'm not, I'll get up. Everybody who
Yep,
knows me knows that. So, all right. You promise.
I promise you.
Good. Good. You have great things to do still, young man.
I know I do.
So, all right. Well, let's start to wrap it up. I appreciate you sharing that stuff. I really do. And I know that I work with a lot of veterans, I've told you that before. And
Mhm.
everybody who listens to the show knows that. I know there's a lot of men right now who are hearing what you're having to say and are just nodding their heads, going, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I get it. You are out though. I mean, you're heading for the hills now. This part of your
I,
life is coming to a close. Yes.
hopefully soon. We'll see.
Okay. All right. At some point, whenever the government lets you go, they love you so much they don't want to let you go.
I guess. I mean, I work for 20 minutes a day.
Yeah. There you go. I mean, don't knock it, right?
Oh yeah.
Your next job is probably not going to be 20 minutes a day, man. Just believe me.
Trust me. I hope it's not.
Yeah. Um, so let everybody know just, quickly, what are you thinking? What's next? Or do you know?
Uh, I mean, right now it's still up in the air. Obviously, I do want to, get back to, peak, baseball physique and everything like that. Start training again. But obviously, I know money ain't gonna come free. So I know I'm gonna need a job eventually. But as of right now, I do want to go back home. You know, get some rest and relaxation that I need,
Mhm.
and probably do that for about a week, maybe two, and after that, we'll see what's gonna happen. Hopefully, it's a job instantly, because I mean, while I'm there for the week or 2 weeks doing the rest and recuperation, everything like that, I'm gonna be looking for jobs and everything like that. But I definitely want to get some time off, be able to, for one, be able to sleep on an actual bed for once. I have, I call them my presents. I have so many presents waiting for me back home.
And one of those is a regular bed.
Regular bed with fitted silk sheets.
Wow. All right. Well, don't get soft on
I
us
want
now.
a bougie.
Don't get bougie and soft on us now.
Oh
Exactly
no, I'm not.
right. Oh my
But yeah,
goodness.
I got a lot of things waiting for me back home that I'm excited to come to. But obviously, I need the U.S. government to finally be like, "Hey, here's your day."
For sure. Well, it's coming. It's coming.
Hopefully,
You'll be there. You'll be there. Listen, there's nothing wrong with it with somebody your age who has done what you've done, taken
yeah.
a breather. So
Hmm.
don't let yourself feel guilty about this, man. Just
Hmm.
take 5, put the feet up, let the body rest and recuperate. You'll probably last a day, and you'll be like in the gym or out on the ball field or doing something.
Oh,
So
I'm that whole like 1 to 2 weeks. I'm planning on being gym the whole time, baseball field all the time, and I know there's one day in there that I'm going to paintball.
see, these are good. These are what you're supposed to be looking forward to at your age. I love it. I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, man. If anybody out there, has experienced a similar thing, and maybe wants to talk to you about it, or shoot you a message, maybe reach out. You have said that you wanted them to be able to contact you.
Yeah.
What's the best way for anybody to contact you if they want to, reach out and just,
Uh,
connect?
Obviously, you can do my email, uh, tylerdietrich@gmail.com. You can do Facebook. I know I'm part of this group. So if you find me on there, obviously message me. You can do Instagram as well. That's just Kyler Dietrich, all one word. Yeah, those are probably the best ways to contact me.
Okay. And I'm going to put those in the show notes when we publish the episode. Those will be, highlighted in the show notes too. So for
Okay.
people can like click on the email, it'll take them right there, and that
Yep.
kind of thing. But I just wanted to make sure that you said it out loud, because some people just, might be wanting to contact you right now on their phone. You never know. So, all right, man. Any last thing? Any advice for any young men who are considering joining the Navy? Any advice for them?
Uh,
Like your best piece of advice. So give it a thought for a minute. Your best piece of
so
advice for someone who's thinking, yeah, I think I want to join the Navy.
I
He's
would say
thinking hard.
well, because I'm used to because I was still in. It's kind of like all my friends have like said, "Oh, I'm going to join the Navy." I'm like, "No, don't. It's it's not the greatest right now." But like, I would say if anyone that actually does want to join, obviously, mentally prepare yourself. It's it's a rough line of work. Obviously, I don't know what job you're going to pick or anything like that, but for someone that's you know been down in reactor, working all those late nights and everything like that, come mentally prepared. Uh, if they're still, within or still doing like the whole, oh, what was it called? Oh, I forgot what the step before going to boot camp was.
That's
But
okay.
if they're still in that step, obviously watch the boot camp video and kind of. I know there's a couple of videos on like different ships, how it looks around there. Watch those, just figure out what you're actually coming into.
All right. So I'm not at all surprised that you of all people said be mentally tough.
Yeah,
All right.
it's a mentally tough job. Like it took a lot out of me.
I hear you. That's saying something because you're a tough guy.
Yeah,
Listen, Kyler, I appreciate you being on today, man. I really do. I appreciate you being part of our Power of Man Within group. I think people think it's just all old guys like me, but it's nice to have, you young bucks in there mixing it up. So,
we're trying.
um, yeah, right. I tell you what, we will definitely check in with you again in the future and check back with you and see how you're doing and bring everybody an update on Kyler on the next world that he's out there conquering. Kyler, thank you very much for all the kind words. Thank you for the memories and thank you for not only having faith in me all that time, but for giving me the memories that I have of those times too.
No problem, coach.
You were you've been something. You've been a hell of a guy to know. So I'm honored, man. I really am.
Thank you.
All right. Folks, I hope that you enjoyed that interview. Hope you got something out of it. If you didn't, I think you should go back and listen to it again. Um, I hope that all of you can take some of these cues from this young guy. Very often, we treat young people and we say, hey, you should have your whole future figured out. You got to go do this. You got to do that. This guy came through. He had every option in the world. He decided to serve his country, and he did it. And he has memories and experiences that are going to last him a lifetime. He's got training that's going to last him a lifetime. He's already got a resume to go out and work with, and he's just starting his life. And the world is his oyster right now. So, you know what? If you're out there and you're trying to decide something, gentlemen or ladies, because we do have quite a few ladies who follow this podcast, um, consider the military. Consider serving your country. It's a noble calling, and I think Kyler's proof of that. So, um, you are worth taking the time to figure out your future, everybody. You really are. And all you have to do is believe it. Until next time.